Actually,
What?
you're on
Like magic.
you the last one, not you, or is that?
It is
the
4
mayor guy?
p.m. on Monday, November 10th, 2025, and I will call this City Council study to order. I do want to thank those who are joining us this afternoon, and as a reminder, there are no public comments at study sessions. And if Councilmember White would lead us in the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just note for the record that all council is present. For staff, we have Director Madden, Interim Director Robeck, Chief Hernandez, and City Clerk Tricia Summers. Council, this evening, the first item on our agenda is, we have it as a presentation. It really is recognition to our wonderful events committee. The 5 of you see in front of you this afternoon, and we're missing one, have been on the events committee for anywhere from 6 to 11 years, and many of them volunteered well before that. At the end of this year, all these 5 sitting in front of us will no longer be serving in the capacity of the events committee, so I wanted to take the time to recognize their efforts. Combined each year, they donate over, well, probably close to 200 hours as a group, and that's what we know of. I'm sure there's things that they do that I'm not aware of in the efforts of Milton Days. Just to go back 8 years, if you can remember that far back, it's been a ride at the events committee. So when I took office, events committee was being overseen by a public works employee, and there was a lot of going back and forth because he said, well, I got to talk to the mayor. Let me talk to the mayor about this. And the events committee put out the request that the mayor just start attending these meetings. So I did. And because they're all my friends, I can say this. It was like a PTA meeting at first. It wasn't my favorite meeting to attend, but 8 years later, it is absolutely my favorite meeting to attend every single month. They have gone with the flow and had grace about it the entire time. We've had to change a lot of policies and procedures along the way, and it was no fault to theirs, just way things were being done were not done correctly. And they would push back, but it's because they wanted to make sure they completely understood why we were doing something. And what I want to say is that I personally did not take the brunt from the community, they did. So anytime we changed a policy, they were the ones who were getting the phone calls. They were the ones who were getting the negative feedback. I was not. So I appreciate all the effort you have put in when we were doing the transition. I'm just grateful. I have 5 friends that I have gained this last 8 years. Tom Boyle told me that I'm the first mayor he ever saw working Milton Days. And it's because of them. I apologize. I wasn't going to get emotional, but when you're saying goodbye to such a phenomenal group of women, it is hard. I know it's not goodbye for friendship, but it's goodbye for this capacity. And so I'm so thankful for you guys, and the city will be different without you involved. So thank you for your 6 to 11 years of service, depending on who you are. This is not goodbye, but thank you again. So I'd like to give each of you a small token of my appreciation. I forgot the second half in my office, so that's going to force you to come see me in the next 6 weeks. But yeah, if I can just have each of you come up, I'll come out there. Hang on. Yeah, do you want to say it first before I present you? Okay.
So my name's April Balsley. I know that on record it says that I've served for 11 years, but I've got pictures that date back 14. I've been proud and privileged to not only be a member of this volunteer committee in the capacity to which I have, but I've also been chair and/or co-chair for at least the last 8 to 10 years. A lot of things have always changed and rotate with new administration that come over, and the mayor is absolutely correct. There was a couple bumps in the road. It was more like being at a PTA meeting rather than what it's become. I've had the privilege of not only sitting on this committee with the current committee that's here this evening, these volunteers, these lovely people who again put hundreds of hours into the city of Milton, not just Milton Days, but the craft bazaar, Christmas events, and so much more. The call of duty for community service here, all these ladies here have in their heart, and that's what drives us. Again, the mayor said it beautifully with when something happens in this community, and especially with the events, if people don't care for it, we're the first people that hear about it. But we're also the first people to help change it and to make it a more community event, to be more inclusive and not exclusive. I know for myself, you always want to leave something a little bit better than you found it. And every single events committee that has ever passed through here has done that. Every year it gets a little bit better, gets a little bit finely tweaked, makes it a little bit easier for everybody the next year. My personal hope and goal for the city moving forward with new administration is to please keep these events, keep our community whole, keep it inclusive, not exclusive. Take the word from your committees, involve them, bring fun, volunteer. For me, it was a very hard personal choice to step down from this committee that I dearly love. My youngest is going to be 22 this month. I've raised my family here in its entirety, not only volunteering for the city of Milton, but for FME sports, book clubs. I had a soccer team, a t-ball team. I've had a Boy Scout den and a Girl Scout troop. Yes, I'm crazy. But I always wanted to make sure that my children had a place and that we were always able to cultivate it for the children and that generation growing up. So it is my hope that we have some amazing young adults with children that come aboard and cultivate with the city what they want their future and their children's future to look like here in the city. And I'd also like to personally thank the mayor, council members, for any time that something needed change or a voice, you listened, you helped vote, and you stood by us. So thank you.
All right, let me present these to you real quick.
You want us all up?
No, I'll go get the awards and bring them to you guys. But you can step up. I should have introduced all of them for anyone that didn't know their name. I guess it's such a...
We can say hi, I'm April Balsley.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Marcy. I'm Mari Pepping. I'm Lisa Stone. I'm Alicia Vanessa.
And then we're missing Tiffany Harris, which Tiffany is staying on board as of today. So, yeah. So first we have.
You want pictures, man?
Yeah, we'll do maybe do a group photo after.
Okay.
And Alicia's, no, I won't say. Oh, I was gonna say something about you, but
Yeah, no more broken ankles.
3, 2, 1.
This is going above the
Do you want your, does anyone want these? No, because you're going to display them proudly in your home. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Council. I was just going to call you Bob, but Councilmember Whalen.
Don't call me for late for dinner.
Yeah, okay.
I want to thank you all, and I want to thank the mayor for bringing that's closer together, the relationship between the committee and the mayor, and without somebody in the middle. You know, it's been very beneficial, and the events have been very well received. The public is very happy with them. I'm saying that your relationship with the mayor and your relationship with the committee and the mayor and so forth has improved it greatly. And I've watched this for over 20 years. A little bit of miscommunication or this, that, and the other, it just seemed to work out so smooth during your tenure and your participation in the committee. So it's impressive.
Yeah.
Please stay with this. Please keep it like this.
Yeah, hands down, probably one of the best partnerships that we have with this administration is with the events committee. And I think Milton Days, not to toot our own horns, but it runs so flawlessly and smoothly, and we weren't that way 8 years ago. So, and it is because of all of their flexibility and willing to do what's necessary. And I mean, I was looking at the hours for Milton Days. I think that day you combined, it's like 100 hours is put in that day for events committee. Like, it's incredible. So, yeah, it does, yes. And Cafe League, if we really need to, right down the way. So, anything else before I move on? Councilmember Hall?
Heartfelt thank you. I've watched you over the years. I've appreciated everything you've put into it, your passion, your love. Even after Milton Days this year, Christy comes to me and goes, you know, we need to prove what we did, something about the truck and getting stuck, and they're already looking to what they could have done better. So that is passion, and that's love what you do, and that's something you don't pay for. That's something that come out of each one of you, and I truly appreciate it.
Councilmember Schrader?
I also would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I can't imagine all the hours that you have put into this, and that takes tremendous effort and tremendous appreciation for all of that. Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. To make it succinct, you are essential to all of the events that the city does, and they're successful because of the contribution that you make. And you're correct. I've seen the improvement over the years with the events, and you'll be missed. But you are, like I said, you're what you made what the different events were. You made them run, and you brought your energy to the table. And I hope other people can use that as an example and do the same thing that you ladies have done.
Councilmember Preddy?
Well, I go back a long time with some of you, I guess. And I always remember, although you said it was like a PTA meeting, I remember when I was working for the city, I always thought this committee was the funnest committee out of them all, you know. And so I remember the days of doing Santa Claus. I think that was the first time I worked with the committee and stuff. And so I just appreciate your work you've done over the years. It's always been fun, and you've done a great job. And I think everything is as exponentially improved over the years as we did things. So thank you very much.
I didn't say they weren't the funnest. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Yeah. There is a reason we don't record those meetings. Anyways, okay. All right. Thank you so much for coming after work. Okay. Okay, council, we have 3 items for discussion this evening. The first one's on page 3 of your packet. It is the third quarter budget report for this year, and I'll pass the floor over to Interim Director Robeck.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. That's a hard act to follow. We'll be presenting the third quarter report fund by fund as usual, but please let me know if you have any questions or need any additional information as we go along. The baseline for activity in the operating funds is 75% of budgeted amounts, and we'll be addressing any significant variances from this target as the funds are presented. Starting with the general fund on page 5, revenues look great at 85.5%, with all revenue categories above 75%, above the 75% target. Expenditures look good as well at 68%. Facilities is a negative amount due to the indirect cost allocation, but this will likely change to a positive by the end of the year. Other central services is higher than budget due to annual expenditures, including insurance, memberships, and dues. As a result, this category should not increase much more during the remainder of the year. Non-expenditures is higher than budget primarily due to timing issues. This category has several clearing accounts with expenditures distributed throughout the year. Does anyone have any questions on the general fund at all?
Michelle, can I just say something really quick? No, it's not regarding yours. I just forgot to note that Planning Manager Stallnecker is here this evening, so I didn't want to wait till the end of your report, so thank you for letting me interrupt you.
No worries. Oh,
Thank you for answering both of my questions.
Oh.
See, but you address them even before I could ask
oh,
them.
great.
Keep the work up, or the good work.
Okay, then moving on to the asset replacement fund on page 6. Revenues in this fund look good at 77.2%, and expenditures in the fund include the purchase of 2 police vehicles. Next up is the street fund on page 7. The street fund looks good with revenues at 76.3% and expenditures at 56.7%. Moving on to the rainy day fund, there's not much activity in this fund. Revenues are slightly lower than budget at 74% and include interest and budgeted transfers in from the general fund. Next up is the drug seizure fund on page 9. There's not much activity in this fund, but expenditures to date include the purchase of e-bikes for the police department. The criminal justice fund on page 10. This fund looks good with revenues at 75.4% and expenditures at 65.8%. Dispatch services are slightly higher than budget at 78% as a result of the actual annual assessment coming in higher than the budget estimate. Animal control services are higher than budget at 76.2% due to the annual previous year true-up payment to the City of Sumner for Metro Animal Services. Does anyone have any questions on the criminal justice fund? Okay. Moving on to the Community Events Fund on page 11. Revenues and expenditures in this fund primarily represent Milton Days activity and are comparable to the third quarter of the previous year. The interfund transfers revenue will be entered near the end of the year. The Automated Traffic Safety Camera Fund on page 12. There isn't much activity in this fund, but the cameras are now active and revenues in this fund will increase. Expenditures in the fund reflect increases in contracts with the Milton Municipal Court Judge and the City of Puyallup for processing cases related to the new program. The real estate excise tax funds on page 13 and 14. Revenues in the REIT funds are currently below budget at 61.4 and 60.7% respectively. But tax revenues are increasing and have actually grown to about 223,000 to date for each of these funds. So that's exceeding budgeted amounts. On the traffic impact fee fund on page 15, it looks good with revenues already surpassing annual budget amounts due to a few large development payments. And the Parks Impact Fee Fund on page 16 looks good too, with revenues already surpassing annual budget amounts. Next up is the Capital Improvement Fund on page 17. This fund looks good with over $2.5 million in TIB grant revenues received for the SR 99 and Porterway project. Larger expenditures in the fund to date include expenditures for the SR 99 and Porterway intersection improvements, community park outdoor meeting venue, and citywide parks improvements projects. Does anyone have any questions on the Capital Improvement Fund? Okay. The Electric Utility Fund on page 18. This fund looks good with revenues at 78% and expenditures at 58.3%. Administration is slightly higher than budget at 81.6%, primarily due to the electric rate study, and interfund transfers are slightly higher than budget at 79.4% as a result of higher electric sales. Next up is the Electric Capital Fund on page 19. There's currently not much activity in this fund, but the largest expenditures to date are for tree trimming and the pole replacement and meter replacement projects. The Water Utility Fund on page 20 looks good with revenues at 83.5% and expenditures at 57.1%. Interfund transfers are slightly than budget at 82.7% as a result of higher water sales. The Water Capital Fund is up next on page 21. Revenues in this fund look good with higher than anticipated capital contributions or system development charges. The largest expenditures to date are for the new deep well and Porterway water main improvements projects. There's currently not much activity in the Water Asset Replacement Fund on page 22, so I have no comments. The Stormwater Utility Fund on page 23 looks good with revenues at 82.6% and expenditures at 54.7%. Interfund transfers are slightly higher than budget at 84.4% due to higher storm drainage fee revenues. The Stormwater Capital Improvement Fund on page 24. There's currently not much activity in this fund. Expenditures to date are for the citywide ditch and culvert project and invasive plant species removal. The Stormwater Asset Replacement Fund on page 25. There's currently not much activity, so I have no comments. The Electric Asset Replacement Fund on page 26. Revenues in this fund look good at 77.3%, and expenditures are for the purchase of transformers. The Vehicle Repair and Maintenance Fund on page 27 looks good with expenditures below budget at 70.3%. Revenues in this fund are based on internal work orders and will catch up to expenditures by the end of the year. And lastly, on page 28, the Information Technology Fund. Expenditures in this fund are slightly above budget at 78.3%. This is primarily due to increased professional services and annual payments for renewals of licenses and subscriptions. Revenues in the fund are based on cost allocations and posted to the fund in equal amounts each month. That's all the prepared comments that I had, but if anyone has any questions, let me know. Okay.
Moving on to our next item this evening, it's on page, or starts on page 29 of the packet. It is the 2026 budget, so I will turn the floor back over to Interim Finance Director Robeck.
Thank you again. The 2026 preliminary budget was first presented on October 13th. As noted during the initial presentation, the principal budget changes have been summarized in the mayor's budget message. In addition, a citywide budget summary is included in the introduction, and summarized presentations of the general fund, street fund, criminal justice fund, and utility funds are included throughout the document at the beginning of each fund's detailed budget. Complete lists and description of all proposed projects can be found on various capital improvement fund budget pages. The 2026 budget will be presented again for discussion on November 17th, and then for final approval on December 1st. I don't have another prepared presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, or comments, concerns that you might have at this time.
No? Okay. Should I ask about maybe the union incorporation, if we want to do a budget amendment, or?
Yeah,
You
I
wanna-
think that would be good.
Okay, so I'm choosing my words wisely. Hang on. Okay, so we are hopeful to have a union contract to you by the December 1st meeting, within the authority that council granted. The question we have is, that is our last scheduled meeting of the year because we've prepared to be done after you approve the budget. Do you want Michelle to revise the budget for that December 1st meeting based on what we're going to provide you that day for the union contract? Or do you want to do a budget amendment in 2026? Or have a meeting just to approve the budget on December 8th would be the other option. But we'd have to make it a special meeting because that's a study session. Am I making sense? Councilmember Cedar?
To answer your last question, yes. But,
Why,
so
thank you.
just to be clear then, the options would be to pass a budget next week?
No, December, we
So
won't,
we'll pass it December 1st, but then we would also see the contract December 1st. They wouldn't yet be married together. The other option would be to see those both in final form on December 1st and have a special meeting on December 8th.
no, it's or. So either Michelle can, if we have a meeting on Thursday, and I am confident we will have a soft acceptance but they have to go to union voting first. So my thing is, can we bring the budget on December 1st, including what's in the union contract? Right? Versus like, right now, Michelle's just going to bring exactly what you see today.
That seems like the way to go.
Okay,
That would be my.
I'd
prefer to have that.
Okay.
Then it's final budget.
okay. Because you gave us authority already, and we're going to stay within that authority. So it won't be anything above and beyond what you already granted authority for. So our preference is to revise the budget based on what comes out of Thursday's meeting and bring you the budget and the contract at the same time. Is anyone uncomfortable with that? Okay. Okay. You just made it really,
That's great,
Yeah.
because it will not only affect wages, but it will affect the indirect cost allocation and some other allocations, not by huge amounts, but you will see differences in those. So I think that's great.
okay. Okay. I appreciate the feedback. Thank you. Okay. All right. So any other questions then on the budget? Okay. So moving on to our final item, it's on page 117 of the packet. It is a amendment, code update to amend chapter 9.55 of the Milton Municipal Code. I'm going to turn the floor over to Chief Hernandez.
Good evening, council and guests virtually. This is to amend our code 955, which has presented some challenges recently. And so the thought is that we would like to align our code so that it reflective of current judicial reviews that have occurred regarding public camping. And so we want to make some changes, which you see in the body of the proposed ordinance, camping on public property. And then you've gotten a large issue discussion regarding some of the challenges that we've come across. And the reality is that this is so that we can protect the rights of the homeless, but also protect the rights of the public to be able to enjoy public spaces, the peace and repose without having to worry about some of the things that come along with camping without having adequate facilities to facilitate that, such as human feces, hypodermic needles, improper storage of food, creating rat vectors, and so on. Recently, we've had an issue with people camping in critical wetlands, and so we've been working with the Department of Transportation, and just recently, as of a couple days ago, we're able to clean out a very large encampment that was in a critical wetland area, and with human feces going into the water, large accumulations of food, drug use. We'd had an OD there, and so we currently have just had that site cleaned up. We're entering into a trespass agreement with the Department of Transportation to give us the authority to be able to enforce our code in those particular areas that are owned by the Department of Transportation. And so you'll see in the version some of the proposed changes. This has gone back and forth and massaged with our attorney, so this has had legal review. It also has new legal precedents that was set under some cases that were challenged already. And so we feel that this is a good remedy to strengthen our code, because the other thing that we're seeing as the courts have ruled and given more authorities to general municipalities to be able to keep their public spaces clean and clear and safe, they have given more authority back to the city. And so what we want to do is put this authority back into our code so that we have the ability to be able to deal with some of the people that it doesn't matter how many resources we make available to them, they just don't want to move because they want to do what they want to do at the expense and at the cost of everybody else's freedom to be able to enjoy those public spaces or to be free of pollutants, whether it's into the water or whether it's open fecal matter in open spaces or illicit drug use in public spaces. And so the amendments that I'm proposing do that and give us the ability, but at the same time still recognizing their rights. And we put a little bit of a, giving them 24 hours notice unless there's immediate threat to public safety, which we have had that as of late. We had somebody up on Meridian. We told them to move. We said, here's the resources. They said, I've been there. I don't like that place. I've been there. I don't like that place. I don't want to go. Well, we've given you the resources. And then also there is a timeliness issue because the burden is on us to prove that they're camping. So we contact them during the day and they're there and we say, you need to go. They don't go, and they exchange whatever niceties they might have for us because they don't want to move. So then we go back at night to prove that they're camping. Well, under our old code, we had to call the shelter and get space. Well, we found that there's some hour limitations on contacting some of those homeless shelters. So then we're stuck with individuals that were not really fulfilling what our current code says of contacting the shelter because they're not answering at the shelter because it's 2 o'clock in the morning. But then we've gone back to prove that they actually are camping. So then we have to come back in the morning and we start all over again. So this gives us the ability to say, hey, you got 24 hours. Here's a list of resources for you to take advantage of. And if we come back in 24 hours and if it looks like you're camping, even if it's during the day, we're going to move you along. If you choose not to move along and not take advantage of the resources and not take advantage of the warning that we've given you 24 hours prior, you're subject to arrest. So it gives us more strength to be able to move people either towards resources or to say this kind of behavior is not acceptable in our public spaces.
Any questions? Councilmember Strader?
What public spaces are they camping in?
The right-of-ways
In the
specifically.
right-of-ways?
Yes, so for example, we have a right-of-way along I-5, and this is the one we recently dealt with. And it was very clandestine, and that is hard to detect because they were literally in the freeway right-of-way, which they had cut a hole through the chain link fence. So they were between the freeway and the chain link fence in a very densely wooded wetland area. And you can't see them unless you go down a very small rabbit hole to get there.
So this is on state property?
Correct.
In essence, right?
Yes.
Are you getting any assistance from the state?
Yeah.
We have gotten, what I found is that the Department of Transportation is working and wants to work with us. And so they literally, when I got back from vacation today, I signed a trespassing agreement that says you are allowed to be our agent in our absence and keep these places clean and clear. And this is one of the things when we think about light rail coming, was one of my concerns is that we're going to have all of these DOT properties that are going to become havens for bad activity and bad actors and people that don't really want resources, that just want to live nomadic and do what they want to do at the expense of pollutants and open feces and drug use and things like that. And so we need to have the ability to be able to be a little bit tougher when it comes to take advantage of the resources, or you can't stay here, and you can't stay here after we've given you warning. And also in this, it says, if we deem it to be public safety. Where I didn't get to is we had one on Meridian contacted during the day. They said, I'm just resting. They had an animal, they had shopping carts, they had all the things that look like they're camping literally on the corner of Military Road there, and refused to move and said, I'm not camping. And so again, with our current code, proving that they camp and here's the resources, they didn't want the resources. Now we got to go back at night and prove that, yes, you're still here, you are camping. Well, they moved behind a power box. And so for me, that was an issue because you're camping on a transformer and there are inherent risks with camping on a transformer and blocking the ability for that transformer also to cool itself if you should throw a shelter or tarp over that transformer. And then the fact that you're in a crash zone, if there is an accident, which we have a lot of accidents at that particular corner, and so they're definitely in the area of risk for being hit by a car if we had a collision like we normally do there on a regular basis. And so again, that's built into this as well, that if we go, no, there's an immediate risk, you got to go right now, we have the ability to do that. But then at the same time, as far as respecting people who actually are having a homeless problem, we give them 24 hours to move and get resources and also to contemplate the resources that we've given them. So I think it is something that is equitable and fair, and it also is consistent with what the current judicial reviews have said regarding the rights of municipal jurisdictions to be able to patrol or keep these areas clear of people that are habitating in those areas.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. Just a question of clarification. It's on 121, paragraph D. It says city personnel
Yes.
may arrest, so I'm assuming that means police officers? Okay. Because I was saying, I didn't know if somebody, in like Public Works could then arrest somebody.
No, nobody has the arrest authority other than.
Right. So, but I thought, so is there a reason why it doesn't say police officers instead of city personnel?
No.
Okay. At least I know now.
Yes.
Okay.
Can't someone cite that you've given authority to, though? Just not arrest?
Yes, as the police chief, I have the ability to give limited commissions to individuals to be able to do certain activities. But
So that's why we have it as city personnel, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But you haven't given that authority yet to anybody.
no.
Councilmember Cedar?
Thanks. I got a couple kind of, I think, grammatical things. On 121, under 95560A, I think we're missing the subject of that sentence. So on page 121, it says city personnel may not cite or arrest an individual for violation unless city personnel previously found the individual camping upon or within public property at least 24 hours beforehand and was warned by city personnel to stop doing so. I think that needs to say, and the individual was warned. Pretty easy addition, I think, to correct it, and then I think the syntax is correct. And then on, in C of the same section, tell me about why it says city personnel shall attempt to supply the individual rather than city personnel shall supply the individual. Why do we need attempt?
Why would he attempt?
Why attempt? Why not just supply the individual? So, you know, and I'll take a half step back. Take is a big policy change, right? That case that you're referring to, major Amici brief on both sides. Like this is a big policy shift to basically say it's illegal to camp. And to be clear, like making it illegal, which is fine. I get it. Milton doesn't want people camping on public property, but you're now criminalizing someone who's chosen this lifestyle for whatever better or worse reason. So I think we should still maintain some onus as the government to give them information. So when I see things like shall attempt to supply, it's a very wishy-washy way to phrase it. I do want the police to still give them the opportunity. You know, we've stripped away the requirement that the police contact available shelters. I get it, that's a logistical impossibility, but there needs to be something done. Like, hey, I'm not attempting, because an attempt is I throw this on the ground near you. I shall supply is I have a legal obligation to do something. And that's a major difference in language to me.
And I think it was intentional because we do have individuals that immediately upon contact start screaming and yelling and waving their arms at us. And so rather than, it's like, okay, well, here's your resources, and we keep our time, distance, and shielding, which legislatively we're currently required to do, because then they'll say that we escalated the situation when we could have just backed out, is then we've met our obligation to go, yes, we did notify them. They screamed and yelled and waved a stick at us, and we dropped a piece of paper and said, you've been notified, you need to go, we'll be back in 24 hours. But if you want to change the language, and there's consensus from council that that's something that they want to do, this is your legislation.
If they scream, wave a stick at your officers, that would either be a violation of subsection D or be a separate crime for attempted assault, right? I mean, that they've escalated the situation themselves, and then, of course, your officers should respond accordingly and protect themselves.
Yes, we try, but legislation has encouraged officers to say, you didn't need to be there, you served your purpose, you notified them, and so you left.
Yeah. Well, my point, Chief, is that why have this at all if the goal is to attempt to do something? Okay, there's lots of things police should attempt to do. But if we're going to create legislation, we should create what we want them to do. And if we want them to give resources, then it should be a shall. You know, I'm willing to do this. I think you make great points. I think there are risks to the community that need to be addressed, and the camping situations have gotten, I don't want them to see them get out of control. But I also want to make sure our officers have the responsibility. So that's the change I would like to see. Other than that, I think it's actually very nice. Thank you.
I think I understand what you're saying, Chief, that if you nail it down to shall, that takes away some officer discretion and puts the officer at risk. So I think I would leave it as it is. I'm not for, I hate putting the word shall because that kind of takes discretion away from the officer.
Any other comments? Councilmember Peretti?
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Strader on that. As soon as we say shall, it puts it in a whole different realm, I believe, for a police officer at that time. And attempting to allows it to attempt to try to give them something, but I just think the shell is too strong and kind of limits, kind of ties your hands at that point.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Councilmember Cedar?
Who drafted this?
The attorney,
The attorney drafted this?
because he looked at other examples of.
Which
other
attorney drafted this?
Andrew, I forget how you say his last.
Soming?
Assuming, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know what statute it's modeled after?
I can look in my emails and see which ones he pulled from.
Okay. Okay, no worries. Thanks.
Yeah. But Auburn is usually pretty close to some of the stuff that he looks at, but.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay. So the last two items this evening will come back on Monday. So if any questions arise between now and then, feel free to reach out. It's a study session, so we've concluded everything. And seeing that all items have been concluded, we will adjourn at 4:46 p.m.